Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
You will do this 4 times with the left, 4 with the right, then 8 times with both, then repeat.
Body moving, A1 sound, and the sound so soothing. Body moving.
Hello and welcome to The Box Seats with Alex Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. I'm joined by the one, the only, Alex B. Smith at AXSmithSports.com and now SportsMemo.com. Alex, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's really nice to be getting ready for NFL, even though it's preseason. But it's, as far as betting on games goes, this is pretty much the start of the year. So it's always a fun time to still enjoy nice weather, but still get to see some football.
Yeah, it's I feel kind of bad for these athletes having to suffer in the sun a little bit, in full pads and whatnot. Maybe not full contact anymore. It's gotten a little softer than it used to be, but It still has to be miserable in the heat of summer, going out there in full pads and running around.
Well, that's why you see eventually these guys, they get all upset and, start pushing and shoving each other. And, then you got some guys who take a step further and start knocking out their star quarterbacks in the locker rooms. So, people can get angry when they're running around in the heat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was ridiculous. We'll get to that in a second. But, Alex, you do have a big announcement since we've been gone, I think it was since July 8th that we did our last show. Mm-hmm. We're now here on LateNightSportsRadio.com, but you have some big news to announce since our last show. Yeah,
I've been fortunate enough to join the group Sports Memo at SportsMemo.com, handicapping website with some really big names that in the industry. Teddy Covers, Aaron Renning, Ian Cameron, Brent Kroll, some of the guys that have been around in Vegas in the industry for years, and they invited me on for the football season and leading into the hockey season this year. So in addition to being on with KellyInVegas.com and VegasInsider.com, as well as my own site, AXSmithSports.com, you can now add Sports Memo to that list as well. So I'm really excited for that. I'll get everything set up on there, and I'll be doing a podcast with those guys about once a week starting once the football season kicks off, the regular season kicks off.
Oh, did we lose Bob?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
Of course, I have some technical difficulty.
It's fine. It's been a while. So.
But I missed a little bit of that. But in addition to Kelly in Vegas, you're going to be Sports Memo, and
right.
Your wheelhouse is definitely I don't know how you do it, but your projections on hockey and NFL, I see there's a little bit more of a science to it, and even it takes talent to guess hockey games, to pick hockey games, in my opinion. NFL, any Joe can kind of do that, in my opinion, and be a little bit successful. Mm-hmm. But hockey, that's where the true stars are made, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watch way more hockey than I do any other sport, which is saying a lot considering I barely miss a football game, be it college or pro. And I watch a pretty healthy amount of basketball, but I pretty much catch every hockey game either live or on a tape delay or even just through a DVR. So when you watch that much hockey in a given year, you tend to pick up on a lot of things that other people don't see. And because it's so infrequently bet in Vegas and offshores, you can, take advantage of some really soft numbers. So that's something I really made my mark in. And, a lot of people taking notice to that. So it's really nice to be rewarded for my efforts. And I hope to continue, my, winning ways with the sport of hockey. So.
Well, since we've been gone, the majority of the reason why we've been gone is because I've been absorbed in my high school baseball team. And our junior Legion team, we finished 5th in the state. And then I went up and helped with the senior Legion team, and that team we finished runner-up in Class B to Hickman, Nebraska, who, my God, those kids were huge. And big shout out to Jake Hoover, head coach at Roncalli, for the great job he did this year, and all the seniors. Connor Miller, Ryan Niederle, Nolan McGill, those guys, great careers that they put out, and getting to state championship didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we got to a place that a lot of parents and fans of the team didn't expect. So that was nice to overachieve a little bit this year in the eyes of some.
Nice. Well, that's really good, man. Congratulations to you and your squads for that. That's baseball is one of the tougher sports, especially at that level. So that's nice to see you having some success with that. Yeah,
it's a tough, it's a weird sport, a weird thing that's going on with the sport. It's just, either people are all in or they have half a foot in the sport. Mm-hmm. And it's tough to, it's all about motivating those kids that are, have a half foot inside the game. A lot of baseball players now, either you got specialists or you got kids where it's their third favorite sport. So it's about motivating that the ones that have their foot halfway in the door of the game. So it's always a fun sport, but I'd much rather watch basketball than watch baseball, but coaching it is a lot of fun. So
right. Nice.
Well, let's get on to the NFL preseason here. And with the preseason, we got, two big things have already happened with quarterbacks. One, Cam Newton gets in a fight with a cornerback. And two, Geno Smith gets knocked out, broken jaw, out 6 to 10 weeks. I don't feel like that's a big loss for the Jets because going from there, Geno Smith to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I don't find that to be a big loss for them. But Cam Newton, does this concern you at all looking at that? And do you question him at all going in this year?
No, the Cam Newton thing I'm not too worried about. That just kind of seems like, just your typical run-of-the-mill, like I said earlier, training camp fights. If you look around at the different camps that have gone on lately, there's been about, a handful of these all over the league in the last week. Like I said, I'm not reading too much into the Cam Newton issue, but this Geno Smith thing is a little bit more serious. Now we're hearing these stories about how there was, some money transaction involved where he skipped out on apparently going to a fundraiser and that he owed the linebacker, blanking on his name, he got cut right after, but he owed him between $600 and $1,000, and they had a confrontation over that, and that's what led to Geno Smith end up having his jaw broken. So that's a little more serious. You start having, off the field affairs spill into, the locker room and so forth, and to have someone who is, a virtual no name, take out your number one quarterback, that's a really big deal. It kind of makes you wonder if, how the coaching and management staff is really going to, how much of a control do they have on this Jets ball club. And like you said, it doesn't really mean a whole lot as far as regular season goes. I mean, Geno Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we're talking about two very lousy quarterbacks in my opinion. But now when you look at the preseason, going in this, let's say Thursday night's game, they play in Detroit. Bryce Petty, the rookie from Baylor, is now Ryan Fitzpatrick's backup. He hasn't been looking good in camp. And now they're trying to bring in some other guys. They've mentioned Rex Grossman's name. I've heard a handful of different people who, there's a reason they don't have jobs at the moment that would be coming in to possibly, take some more snaps in the preseason. So the Jets are a team you should have a giant circle on if you're looking at betting in the preseason. Quarterback rotations are very important this time of year because, everything's mapped out. It's the only time of year, and it's the only sport in any time of year where you're going to really get to know what the game plan is, if there's a game plan at all, how often the starters and the reserves are going to play. So you can take that information and bundle it and, work that around the number. So I already went and played against the Jets on Thursday night. I laid now 3.5 points with the Detroit Lions, who've been practicing pretty hard. They've been going hard in full pads for the last several days, and they have a pretty good track record in the preseason. Ironically enough, they've won 15 of their last 19 games, and they've covered it in that same stretch. So, yeah, these issues, not so much serious in the regular season, but definitely some things to look about, during August.
Preseason, do you see this being is this a good time to bet? And, is there a particular preseason week to, where you're more likely to place bets on, whether it's week 1 where you got a lot of these young rookies, or is it week 3 when, that's where, that's kind of the dress rehearsal, so to speak, or week 4? What's, in your opinion, what's the best time to bet?
The whole thing is truly situational. There are some teams you want to bet on, in the first couple of games. Some teams you want to look at maybe, at the very end of for example, Jeff Fisher, St. Louis Rams, he likes to do his dress rehearsal in the 4th game as opposed to the 3rd game at times. So you have to look for little nuances. Yeah, everybody assumes that, everyone follows the same strategy of, very few starters playing the first game, half and half in the second, full dress rehearsal in the 3rd, and then, hardly any starters in game 4. You also have to take into consideration that you have teams like the Steelers and Vikings who already played a game, so their schedules are going to be a little different. We have to kind of listen to what the coaches say and find out when, Mike Zimmer and Tomlin, sorry, figure out when they're going to have their dress rehearsals. So there's always a good time to bet on preseason. It's not as lucrative as it was 20 years ago when a lot of the public, didn't really take to betting on preseason, and it was a lot of sharps. So, it's all about what information you can gather from press conferences, beat writers, and, just analyzing that with the lines. There's no given set, time to bet on a team, no given week where it's better than the other. It's just all about what information you get and how it comes about to the game.
Well, yeah, I'm not a huge betting man, but picking preseason seems that's something I don't think I'll ever touch. I just see it as, just a pure disaster from my standpoint, at least. I think that's best left to the professionals or to nobody at all. Because there's just no reason to bet it. And I mean, for me at least, like, it's just, I guess just to make the games a little more interesting, but yeah, I have no desire to bet that at all. Right. And I would advise anybody that's not a professional to probably not go down that road.
Honestly, at this point, I would agree with that as well too. If you don't have the time devoted to putting in the research, I mean, I've spent the last 8-9 days just reading through a lot of monotonous sports writer notes, watching a lot of just small clips from team websites of just trying to get a glimpse of something. You sort through a lot of garbage to find that diamond in the rough, and then you have to jump on it right away before the number moves away from where you want to go. So, unless you're willing to pay, a service to get picks, this is one time where I would say you have to really either, commit full time to handicapping it or just leave it alone, and you're better off just saving your money and building your bankroll up for the regular season.
Would you touch any like prop bets at all at this point in the preseason?
It depends. If I see certain things, maybe after week 2 or week 3, I might be prone to, looking at making a bet on a team to win the division, or maybe look at an over under win total. Obviously, those numbers are going to start shifting back and forth based on the public's going to react to whether they're betting the games or not, but they're going to react to the results. And if they see a starter struggling, or if they know a bunch of guys are hurt, then that's going to reflect on that win total, and eventually the division and Super Bowl odds as well. So you have to take a glance at it, because you might see something that the lines makers haven't seen or haven't adjusted for, and you can find the edge quickly. But like I said, the preseason, the biggest thing is timing. You have to move really fast. You got to have most of your homework done before the numbers come out, because you have to work with the adjustments, and you have to make sure that all of your notes and all of your situations line up, and accordingly.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on the box seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. We will be right back. Talk some NFL win projections and college football win projections here on the box seats.
Lost or found love, lying by your side. Take another second to keep breathing in a moment before it's gone. You never know when others lost until you find just what it costs to be wrong. Think of me passing by, you think you see me coming. I wonder if you pull me in, kiss me just one time again. Cause in the final hours of night, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. Coming and the nights will keep on going till they're tired, falling fast asleep, and as they dream of ghosts of beats filled with desire. The chance of life is all around, a chance to take is always found. Oh, writing on the lullabies, on the lonely living life. Oh, do you remember? Lost or found, love lying by your side. In the final hours
Baby, you're a mystery. Tell me what's a girl gotta do. Looking at the history doesn't seem to give any clue. Just when I think I understand it all, you seem to unravel some more. Ooh, la, la, ooh, I never known nobody like you. Ooh, la, la, ooh, now I know. Baby, you're not an enigma. Ooh, la, yeah, you keep me guessing on confessing now, well, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're a riddle. I'm caught up in the middle of you. I'm trying to think bigger, but I can't seem to figure it through. I wanna make it better, but now I'm scared of looking a fool. Oh, baby, no, I've never been very good at playing it cool. Just when I think I understand it all, I find I know nothing at all. Ooh, I never known nobody like you. Ooh, now I know. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, well, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Ooh, baby, you're an enigma. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're an enigma. Baby, you're an enigma. Yeah, you keep me guessing, I'm confessing now, baby, it's true. I never know nobody like you.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
Welcome back to the box seats here on latenightsportsradio.com. Box seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. We are going to get into some NFL win projection, over-unders here. Alex, you know, some of these win totals seem a little high. I was looking at the AFC East. Those all, you know, for that division to be predicted to be good is kind of scary to me. But a couple numbers that popped out, you know, you were looking at the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
I got right now 8.5 on what I'm looking at. What do you got right now as far as what you've seen for over-unders, and what do you like from them?
Yeah, I actually played this game personally. I got it at, over 8.5 wins, laying $1.10. You know, you look at that NFC South. I mean, the Falcons could have easily, you know, made the playoffs last year, and you look at the, you know, it was basically a team that went under 500 that won it. Carolina, they had that tie, so they were 7-8-1. So looking at this year, Dan Quinn leaves Seattle. He was a defensive coordinator out there, turning that whole team around. Now he's taking over this Falcons team. They allowed 400 yards per game on defense last year, so they really need some help on the D end of the ball. Kyle Shanahan's now the offensive coordinator, so have somebody of his caliber working with a guy as talented as Matt Ryan. I think that would be a really good fit. Also, taking a look at their schedule, 3 of the opponents that they'll be playing this year, only 3 of them made the postseason last year. So the rest of them were losing teams from 2014. So you look at the Saints are on the decline. Carolina hasn't really done much to improve their stance from last year. Tampa Bay breaking in a new quarterback with Jameis Winston and so forth. I think the Falcons are, by far and large the best team, which isn't saying much in this division, but I think they're good enough to get to 9 wins, maybe even 10, and should easily be able to win the South.
Well, yeah, and I mean you're going up against 3 teams, 2 times apiece that have just as shoddy defenses.
Yeah,
and I mean, well, the Panthers, they don't have bad defense, but
yeah, their offense is more of their weakness. But if you look at the Saints and Tampa Bay, they have some defensive issues, and like I said, we don't know how the Saints are going to look without Jimmy Graham now. Drew Brees seems to be getting older by every game he plays. Even though he does have a better O-line in front of him this year, it's going to be hard if he can't find any of his targets, to get the ball out to.
Do you think his moment is past? He can say he wants to play another 10 years, but he looks like he's got maybe 2.5 good ones left.
Yeah, he's going to have to, unless the Saints really overhaul this lineup and go and spend some money and get some big name players. Like I said, solidify that line, but then get some big playmakers. Maybe a top tier running back or so forth. They've always had a decent running game, but they never had any star power running back. I mean, it's been a while since you can really think of a solid, just all out running back. They have a lot of guys who they can hand the ball off to short yardage situations and so forth. But unless he's, they retool that team around him, or he leaves and goes to, a situation, I can't imagine where he would go where, it would already be tailor made for him to make a playoff run. But he might be at the end of his rope.
A couple of numbers I'm looking at that I don't like are, one, the New York Giants at 8.5. I feel that's a tad high. And I think they're capable of getting to 10 wins, but odds are my bet is it's probably going to fall under that. I think if it was 7.5, I'd be more inclined to bet the over. 8.5 just seems a little. It makes me cringe a little bit. And the Eagles as well at 9.5. I feel like with all the retooling, a new quarterback, and they're going to be going for 2, in my opinion, a lot this year, and I think that's going to cost them a few games. So those are 2 numbers that I'm looking at right now that I would bet that I feel are a little high and would lead me to bet the under.
The Giants are a true example of a team. Why I don't really bet a lot of win totals. A lot of people make a big deal about the win totals as soon as they come out, early in the year, kind of just as a projection of what's to come. And so in reason they are popular bets. Each and every year it seems to be like more people are betting on these win totals. But the Giants are just one of those clubs that you can never really feel out. If you look at their track record, with every 3-4 years, and they end up being the dark horse that sneaks into the Super Bowl. So they could go 6-10 again. They could win this division at 11-5. It all depends on if these guys can stay healthy, if these receiving core can click together, and if their defense can step up. So there's a lot of question marks to the Giants. Yeah, I even see it some places where it's 8, shaded to the under. I still wouldn't look to play the over in that spot. As for Philadelphia, yeah, they're having a lot of internal issues, and we're hearing all these different things about, questioning Chip Kelly. And like you said, will he be going for two a lot? We saw him do that a lot in Oregon. First touchdown of the game, he rush everybody back to the line and try and go for two. So we might see that. We don't know. He might be a little more conservative early, but you still got a very strong Dallas team, and you still got kind of a hard team to read in Washington. I don't think Washington's going to be that good. I think they're going to. I'm looking at their number at 6. I wouldn't, if I could find a 6.5, shade it to the over. I wouldn't mind, going the contrarian route and taking that under. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go 4-12 again. But that's always a tough division. Those teams play each other really tough, so that's a really hard division to grasp any kind of win totals enough to make a wager on.
One more thing that kind of jumps out at me that I would take the over on is the Indianapolis Colts at 10.5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people are buying into Frank Gore coming in and Andre Johnson. Those guys are well past their prime. But those are nice pieces to have, more so Andre Johnson. And he can be more of a decoy. And, that division is not good. I would definitely take the over in that situation with the Colts.
The one thing that kind of worries me about it, and looking at it at the beginning of the year, I had Indianapolis as, like I said, a runaway to win that division and probably be the only team to come back and really contest New England for that AFC title spot this year. But they have a lot of injuries early in camp. It seems to be Indianapolis, Green Bay, and Baltimore have been the 3 teams that have kind of been hit with the injury bug a little bit, heading into camp right now. And so I'd have to hold off on any kind of futures play with this team right now. I still think, they should win the division. I can't see them losing even one game to either Jacksonville or Houston or Tennessee. But I don't know if, it's just, if something were to happen to Luck or, T.Y. Hilton or any of those guys, that would put that wager in serious question, serious jeopardy. So I would hold off on the Colts. It's one of those things where, you don't have to bet it. So you're better off passing it than, taking a risk with a team that's already going in, could be heading into the regular season missing some key pieces.
What are some other things that you have in your notes from these win totals that you're liking right now?
I've been looking at the Bears. Seeing right now they're lined at 7. I don't really know what to read from them. Obviously, I follow them closely. They're my the team that I root for. But it's just, I'm not seeing anything very impressive. I'm not seeing anything that's concerning me either. So, like I said earlier in the last segment about, watching some of these preseason games and then coming to an assessment on a win total, that might be something I would look for. The starters aren't going to play a lot on Thursday when they play against Miami. I think we'll see more of, obviously the starters in week 2 and week 3. But I would be looking not just at the game results and stats, but how they practice the rest of the way after the games. And then go from there and possibly make a play. I'm leaning under. I think Green Bay is going to be, the fact that they have to play them right out of the gate week 1. They have to go to Lambeau on Thanksgiving. Those are going to be 2 very difficult games. Minnesota's looking sharp. Detroit, whether they've been, mediocre or average, they still seem to give the Bears trouble. So their division games are already going to be tough. But then you look, they got to play Seattle and St. Louis. They don't have an easy road. So I would lean under. And if that price drops to where I'd be laying a little bit more than, $1.20, $1.30, I still might go with that. That's one thing that you have to look at with these over-under totals. Don't be afraid to lay those chalk prices. Even if you see some things that are, where it's at minus 140, 145, if you feel really strongly with that, and you read that the schedule well enough, with a futures play, it's not too bad of a price to lay, as opposed to, you don't want to lay those kind of numbers for a single game, but over a course of a season, that's not really the worst wager in the world.
Yeah, I'm more. I'm thinking I'm gonna wait. There's some of these lines I like, or these over unders I like. However, I gotta wait till the end of the pre. There's gonna be 75 different injuries to all these teams, and I just find it. I like some of these win projections right now, but you never know. It could, somebody with the Bears could be like, "Hey, a linebacker can punch a quarterback in the face," and they might do that to Jay Cutler. You never know.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to be a little more reluctant right now to take any of these, but definitely, and I think I might be more inclined to bet some of these terrible teams like the Jaguars or Redskins or Titans or something. Go after picks like that because I feel like going after those is a little bit safer than some of these teams. Well, like the Patriots with the unknown of what's going to happen with Brady.
Right. Right. No, I agree with that. And even you look at teams like, say, Houston. I see Houston at 8.5. Arian Foster. We don't know what's going to happen with this. He's going to have surgery on this groin, but that's always an issue that's really iffy for running backs, especially a guy who's already had some injury issues in the past. Without him, they're pretty much screwed. I mean, their offense is not good without Arian Foster. If you look at their numbers historically, they've been pretty bad without him on the field. So, there's some injuries where you could where you might be a little iffy on a team, and a big injury could sway you onto a spot. But like you said, you get guys get hurt so often this time of year that it's really hard for in the NFL, and then especially in college. You got injuries and then suspensions, and kids not being able to finish their classwork, and there's so many other variables with college football. But it makes it hard to make any significant future bets because you don't know who's going to be there week from week because of how many things happen. It seems more and more every year. There's a lot of off the field or even on field drama that just creeps its way in and affects these numbers.
Yeah. Well, on to college football. There's been win projections released here recently, and college football. Obviously, you got. Everybody thinks the Big Ten's back with not only Ohio State winning the national title, but Jim Harbaugh now being involved. Michigan at a 7.5. Ohio State at 11. Was there any win totals that jumped out at you from college football that you liked, or you think that people are prisoner of the moment with some of these projections?
No, there are a couple of win totals I like. It's hard because with college, me personally, I like to follow a lot of the smaller conferences, the MAC and the Sun Belt. I feel like it's a lot easier to get information from those programs as far as betting from week to week. But, a lot of people tend to lean more toward the big schools, the Big Tens, the ACCs, the SECs of the world with these win totals. And there is an ACC team that I like this year, North Carolina Tar Heels. I played them at over 8 wins. I was able to get it at plus $1.20. They had a really disappointing year last year. Their defense was abysmal. They allowed over 50 points in 3 different games. They allowed 70 points in 1 game. But they're bringing a lot of guys back on defense. They're bringing back literally their entire offense. Their only thing they're replacing is a redshirt sophomore is coming in for a tight end, but everybody else is juniors and seniors who played last year. Gene Chizik, former coach at Auburn, is taking over as defensive coordinator. I think that this team is going to improve, fairly well on defense, enough to give some balance to where their offense can do some work. it won't be heavy one sided or the other. I think they're gonna be a little bit more balanced team. They got a pretty easy non-conference schedule. For the teams that they play in their conference, finished below 500 last year, so I could see them going at 8 wins and making a bowl game. Another team that I kind of looked at from a smaller conference in the MAC, like I mentioned, University of Ohio. Frank Solich is, he's done some really good work. He was former Nebraska guy, and their team's over, looking at 5 wins. I think they could easily go over 5 wins. They're in the MAC East division, which is very weak. They've got some pretty easy games to start off with, playing teams like Southeast Louisiana, teams like Idaho. So I could see them easily getting to over 5 wins, maybe 6 or 7. Who knows? They could sneak in and get a bowl game as well. So you have to really kind of dig deep and look for some of these smaller, the mid majors in the college football world with these win totals.
Well, and it's funny to me. I saw Bowling Green at 5.5. Aren't they projected to be pretty decent?
Yeah, I like them to actually win the MAC East, and they're gonna look. They're going to play some. They play Tennessee week 1. They're going to give them a tough run. They've got a really good offense, and they have a fairly decent defense too. So that's something that you worry about the MAC teams. The one caveat with betting MAC win totals would be their propensity to get crushed in non-conference games. Yeah. For example, Northern Illinois, if you look at their non-conference schedule this year, it's tough. They got to go to Columbus and play Ohio State. Then after that, they got to go play Boston College. They get the sandwich of these road games. UNLV comes in week 1, and UNLV gave them a run for their money last year, even though they're on a decline this year. But so some of these MAC teams can really get a tough draw of non-conference games, and then you kind of once you get in the conference play, it's a little iffy. You really need you might be 1 game short by November of a win total.
There's a couple that stand out to me. That I would I might put some money on. Colorado 4.5. I'm definitely taking the under on that. I can't. This has been a program that's been in turmoil for years now.
Yeah,
and I just can't. I would put their cap at 4 wins, and I can't see them winning more than 4 games. Another one that kind of pops out at me, but you mentioned this on a previous show we did, BYU 8.5. How they have the, just the way whether kids are going on their mission trips and how it all works out as far as when you have a good team and when you don't.
Right.
BYU 8.5. I'm feeling a little bit of betting the over on that because I feel like they have a good team and they have kind of a favorable schedule as well. And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the thing with BYU recently. Their top running back Williams is taking the year off of school, and so with him out, they're bringing in a couple of guys who only saw some garbage time late last year. So looking at that number now, and if you look at how tough they're an independent. But you look at how tough their first 4 weeks are at Nebraska, against Boise State, at UCLA, at Michigan. Those 4 games are really going to determine the rest of that stretch. And even if you look later in the year, they got to go to Kansas City to play Missouri. They'll draw a fairly decent East Carolina team at home. Fresno State, Utah State always play them pretty tough. So 8 wins could be a little steep for them if they should drop a couple of those games early. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see them go 0-3 heading into Ann Arbor in that 4th week. That wouldn't shock me one bit.
Well, then maybe I'll lean towards the under on that. I was not aware of their running back situation, but and then another one that popped out at me was Kansas, over under 1.5. For how bad they've been. They're probably not going to win a conference game. Mm-hmm. And say they win one, one non-conference, and then I could see them sneaking maybe one conference game. I mean, Iowa State's terrible. I gotta feel that 1.5. I gotta want to believe that Kansas can win 2 games. I just feel 1.5. Man, that's worse than being projected to win 0 games.
Yeah, and usually when you see a 1.5, that's almost kind of what the bookmakers are trying to say, that don't be shocked if this team doesn't win a game at all. But I really think looking at that, I wouldn't be shocked if they get their 2 wins before conference play starts. They open up the season with South Dakota State. They play a good Memphis team. They're definitely going to lose that. Then they have a bye week, and then they go out to Piscataway to play Rutgers. That's not really a great Rutgers team. I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas really stacks it on and gets that win. That's really their only shot, I think, to get 2 wins, though. I don't see them winning anything in conference. At Iowa State, at Oklahoma State, at Texas, and at TCU are their road games. And then they get Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Kansas State at home. That's a way too tough of a conference for a program like Kansas that just for some reason cannot recruit. They spend all their recruiting money in basketball. They just can't really get anything going together with football. So, if you want to roll the dice with the over 1.5, you're pretty much betting on them to go hopefully win 2 out of 3 non-conference games.
Yeah, I mean, you never know with Texas Tech. They're not good.
Yeah.
One of those home games, in Iowa State, Rhodes hasn't exactly rewritten the book on how to coach football in the Big 12 either. Right. So, Kansas is not good, but, I guess asking them to win a road game is a disaster in itself. But, yeah, I got to want to believe that they can win a second game there. South Dakota State should win, but, man, oh, man, how far they have fallen off a cliff.
And if you look at last year, they gave TCU a run for their money, late in the year. They only lost them by 4 points. And they beat Iowa State, which I think might be the reason why I could see Iowa State coming back and winning that game. That's a big revenge spot to open up the conference play. I can't see Kansas pulling out a win 2 years in a row against them. But you never know. That is the thing. Teams, when you have bad teams, in your conference, and you have a lot of, where it's very lopsided, a lot of those TCUs and Baylors and Kansas States can take these teams for granted, and that's when they end up, pulling an upset and cashing a ticket like that. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to just completely get blown out every game. They could sneak by and draw a winner, but it's going to be tough once again for the Jayhawks to really put together some victories this year.
TCU at 10 wins seems about right. But another team at double digits is Wisconsin. What's the obsession with Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, I would say Wisconsin's a lot like the New York Giants. They're kind of like the college football version of the New York Giants. You just really don't know what you're going to get from them right away. They seem to be really great, especially, you want to talk about a big, they feast off of non-conference opponents. They get those small, schools in the Camp Randall, and they just devour them. They got Miami of Ohio, Troy, and Hawaii, their first 3 home games after that neutral site opener against Alabama. But when you look at their schedule, in conference play, you look at the Alabama game, I don't see them winning that. The conference play, home with Iowa, at Nebraska, homecoming against Purdue, at Illinois. So they could be 3-1, in conference play. They get Rutgers, they get Maryland. Those should be pretty easy wins. 10 wins looks feasible, but you never know. It's one of those, Nebraska in Lincoln, that's going to be a tough battle. They get the Gophers up here at TCF Bank Stadium. That's going to be a tough game. This Minnesota team looks to be fairly solid, a little bit under the radar. So there's some spots where Wisconsin could fall and make 10 wins a bit tough, but they're definitely going to get some wins early in their non-conference schedules.
well, you just mentioned them. Minnesota, projected at 5.5. That's a team that could win the West.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten. Why do you think that is so low? And do you think that's a lock to be, 7-8 win team?
Well, it's hard when you have a team that loses their leading rusher and leading receiver in a year. And they overachieved last year. So, we talk about a really good coach in Jerry Kill, a very decent offense, and I think a fairly soft non-conference schedule. And even they even get the luck of the draw for the most part in their conference schedule. Yes, they have to go to Ohio State. They have to host Michigan, but the rest of their conference schedule is not that bad. They play Northwestern, Purdue, Nebraska. That'll probably be a really tough game. They have to go to Iowa. That'll be another tough game. Illinois, they've played fairly tough against, but they could pull a win out there. And I mentioned the Wisconsin game. I would not be shocked if at the end of the year that they could pull off the upset at home against their hated rivals in Wisconsin. Looking at their conference schedule, non-conference, however, TCU to open up the season, that's going to be a tough game. Probably going to lose that. At Colorado State, they could win that. Colorado State's got they're going to be rebuilding, but it's always tough to play in the altitude. They come back home and get Kent State. That should be an easy win. They have Ohio for homecoming. That's going to be a tough game, but I wouldn't be shocked to see them pull that win out. So over 5.5 looks pretty possible. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know if they're going to really compete like they did last year and make a run to possibly get into that Big Ten championship game, but I could see them easily getting to at least being bowl eligible.
One more thing before we get going here. We got our best bets of the week.
Yep.
What do you have for us?
Well, I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the New York Jets. I'm fading them on Thursday. I'm laying the 3.5 with the Detroit Lions. The Lions look really hungry, and they've been practicing well. They've also talked about trying to implement a lot of the 2-point conversion formations in preseason to see how things go. So we might see them, potentially, if they can get out to a big lead, they might be running up the score, not, in spite of their opponent, but they're, just trying to work things out. So we could see them getting, some 8 points, 16 points or whatever. And I think this Jets team, there's a lot going on. You hate seeing situations like this, with fights amongst guys in the locker rooms, and now there's a question of stability with Boyles in as a coach, and does he have control of his guys, and has everything he's been what's been implemented with as far as strategy goes. So I wouldn't be shocked to see if this is just more of a glorified scrimmage from the Jets' point of view, and the Lions might try and at least give their fans a little bit of a show. Like I said, 15-4 their last 19 against the spread and straight up. They always show up well in August, so I can't see why this wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, I'd say my best bets would be taking. I'm gonna go best bet Kansas to get 2 wins.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the over on that. That's maybe not best bet, but that's a good bet.
Yeah.
And Northwestern over under 6.5 wins. I'm gonna take the under on that. I don't see them being very good again. And my last best bet, I would say UCLA at 9.5. I'm gonna take the under just with the history of Jim Mora Jr. at UCLA. He post Hundley era, I just don't think Moore is that great of a coach. And granted, the Pac-12, the Pac-12 it's better than what it used to be. Well, you got Arizona, USC. I don't see UCLA winning more than 9.5. I see them right at 9. So I would take the under on that as far as my best bets go.
Yeah, that Pac-12 is going to be a very, very tough division. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 divisions within conferences of college football that are really just going to beat each other up. And even just conferences as a whole, I think that whole Pac-12 conference is pretty much loaded, except for you give or take a couple of schools at the bottom. But I wouldn't touch any of those schools with their win totals because, like you said, they could flip flop from we could see UCLA fight for bowl eligibility, or they could make a run and be right back into the conference title game. So it's going to be tough. But like you said, Moore's track record, we'll see how things go.
Well, before we get out of here, Alex, do you want to tell everybody where we can find you on Twitter, the internets, all that good stuff?
Yep. You can follow me on Twitter at AXSmithSports. You can find me on my own website, axsmithsports.com. I'm now up on sportsmemo.com as well as on kellyinvegas.com, vegasinsider.com, and parkolasports.com. So plenty of options to find me on the internet. Yeah.
Awesome.
Bob, what do you got going on for your show coming up?
For my show on Sunday, I will be having either some combination of EJ Christian, Jabari Davis, Antoine Staley, a combination of all of those three or 2 out of 3. You know what Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So
Right.
combination of those 3, we're going to be talking some NBA, some NFL, all that good stuff. And you can find me on Twitter at Bob Sullivan Show. You can follow LateNightSportsRadio.com on Twitter at LN Sports Radio. And you can also listen to me on the Johnny Bobo Show on Thursday nights here on LateNightSportsRadio.com. And we look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday here on the Box Seats with Alex B. Smith and Bob Sullivan. See you.